Hello there, you awakening wonders. Wherever you're watching us, the whole show will be exclusively available on Rumble. You can roam the internet as much as you want looking for this show, but exclusively on Rumble. First 15 minutes will be on YouTube, but then an action as seemingly as innocuous as this contravenes WHO guidelines. We'll be telling you why this is a dangerous act of radicalism. Oh, you saucy little citrus, a little bit later. We'll also be talking to Branko Marcetic about how the US government misled the public on the war in Ukraine and how the media, very much the dual Biden to the Joe Biden of the state, support the government in their ongoing lies. Then we'll, in our item, Here's the News, No, Here's the effing News, we'll be looking at how military personnel are suffering poverty, suffering, indignity, all the while the military-industrial complex is profiting massively. Let me have another sniff of that. Oh, I'm feeling a little bit better, but I won't tell you what condition it might be helping, according to...
There's plenty of conditions it could be helping with you.
There's nothing wrong with me, mate. There's nothing wrong with me.
The burping for a start.
What in the holy name of God's wrong with Putin's neck pipes? There's something wrong with his neck, look. There's strange marks on Vladimir Putin's neck. Look at his neck. That ain't right. Here he is appearing at, I would call it, an Orthodox ceremony for the festival of Easter, in which our Lord Jesus comes back from death to show us that there are deeper tunes to be played when it comes to the requiem of consciousness. Here is Putin. Let's see if you think there's anything wrong with his neck. And also, is that candle just a little bit too thin? Have a look.
Христос воскресе!
Христос воскресе! Христос воскресе!
I like his neck, and I like that ceremony, and I like that crown that they're Orthodox version of a bishop or a pope or whatever you have in Russia. Let us know in the comments and the chat what you have over there in Russia.
I don't think those are the bits that the news want you to focus on. The bits, this is the point of this, Ross, is they want you to think, oh, Putin, he's so ill.
He's a deranged madman.
Right. No, and also, he's that as well, of course, he's a deranged madman. But he's so ill that we're going to win this war.
Putin, he's so ill, he'll be really easy to kill. In our not proxy war that we're not having, we're just supporting Ukraine in a humanitarian effort that's necessary and had nothing to do with NATO impeding on former Soviet Union territory and nothing to do with a coup in 2014. No one can.
Nice.
I think
that
lyric.
it looked like aging to me.
That's just life having its way. Trump versus DeSantis, the ongoing preliminary battle, has reached propagandist levels. The mainstream media are, of course, enjoying this. CNN and sort of, I suppose, the liberal half of the neoliberal corrupt establishment media are enjoying this super PAC spat. First up, whose video are we going to see first?
I think it starts with Ron DeSantis is on Trump.
All right, let's see what Ron DeSantis is saying about Trump. First of all, let's have a look.
It is April 2023. Yes, April 2023, but an early...
Excited about the date. That's just the date. What are we worried about that for? Yep, that's right. We know the date. You can trust us on CNN.
I think his point is that these are coming early when the election is next year, but he is just a man reiterating the date. And
also, like, this is the thing. With all of their bombast and banal pageantry, they're in no position to criticise the propaganda of anyone else. Look at that, like the way his name, John King, came thrusting onto the screen, an unwanted graphic priapic erection forced in from the side of the frame.
If his point is they're doing this too early, just make a decision to not show it then. You're doing the thing. You're reporting on them doing it too early.
Yeah, you're getting involved. You love it. And wait till it gets to the free finger yogurts.
Proxy war is underway between the top two Republican 2024 contenders. A super PAC aligned with the Florida governor, Ron DeSantis, in a new TV ad suggests Donald Trump has lost his way.
Trump's stealing pages from the Biden-Pelosi playbook, repeating lies about Social Security. Trump should fight Democrats, not lie about Governor DeSantis. What happened to Donald Trump?
I like that shot of Donald Trump looking sort of a bit destitute, wandering home from a nightclub with his bow tie undone. That was good. Let's see, though. I think Trump's super PAC propaganda, not necessarily affiliated with the Trump campaign, it's a super PAC thing, is better. Because what they've gone for is a garish, galling, gory, and awful image involving pudding. Also, like, they're picking up on a weird detail about Ron DeSantis. I didn't know that Ron DeSantis ate puddings with his fingers. But that's, you know, like, have you ever been to India? In India, people eat, like, surprising meals with their fingers, and I presume that's common across that region of the world. Like, I was in India, and people eat, like, rice and curry with their fingers, and you just have to go, well, why not? Maybe it's more weird to hold a little spoon or a fork. What are we afraid of, man?
I still think even in India they wouldn't do a chocolate mousse.
They might, mate. They might get their fingers right in there. If you are watching this live from India now, eating a pudding with your fingers, then text us, but I mean, it's up to you, your phone. Maybe wipe the pudding off your finger. Or if you're on DeSantis and you're watching this in Florida with a great scoop of pud right there, cradled there in the nook of your third knuckle, sup that down, delicious, like Mother Nature surely intended when she granted us these crazy little hand wands. And let's know what's going on.
Now, that ad from a pro-DeSantis PAC is responding to scathing ads from a pro-Trump group, including this, yes, stomach-churning dig at the Florida governor after a report that he ate pudding with his fingers.
Ron DeSantis loves sticking his fingers where they don't belong.
Is that DeSantis has got a table and chair, and all that's on it is that
just
pudding.
for a pudding. That's his pudding table.
I'm going to the pudding table now, Ma. Like, there's nothing else there. It's not like a TV or a phone or any distractions, just a man and his pudding. And also, it's a non-branded sort of looks. I don't feel like that's a good quality
you'd get
pudding.
lots of those for maybe $1.
You get in Walmart, you get 20 of them puddings for a very, very reasonable price. And if you're fingering your way through them at a rate of knots, that's what you want when you're sat alone at your good, like, little Jack Horner sticking your fingers table.
You want that replenished. Get another one in.
Like he holds up his muddy little digits. More, mama. More. Keep them going. We have a conveyor belt operated by an Oompa Loompa, like on a bicycle, just bring another pudding. He's like a self-fulfilling Wonka. He's a one-man Wonka. He's running his own chocolate factory. He's eating his own product. That's the way to run a state, if you ask me.
And we're not just talking about pudding. DeSantis has his dirty fingers all over senior entitlements.
Making the connection between senior entitlements and that chocolate smeared, let's face it, that's an erotic image, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Well, I guess it's both, isn't it?
What do you mean both? What else is it?
Disgusting and erotic.
Right, I see. I mean, the erotic need not necessarily evoke a passionate or even erotic response in the recipient, because the world of sexuality is a complex and wonderful smorgasbord.
Right.
Smorgasbord, perhaps. A wonderful menagerie. Yeah. A menagerie of potential things. If that, and also it's simultaneous. It's sexualizing DeSantis's pudding eating. Maybe it's just efficient.
Yeah.
You're
he
having
did it
a
on
pudding.
a private jet, apparently. I don't know if that makes a difference. It was 2019. Ron DeSantis is in a private jet flying around, and the story came out that he ate a pudding with his fingers. Maybe there weren't spoons on the jet.
Could have been a one-off, couldn't it?
Right.
I actually myself have probably, I'd call it stooped so low as to eat a pudding with digit, but it's not through choice. I'm not like getting off on it. I've looked around for some sort of spoon or device. If there isn't one, what are you going to do? Make one?
No.
Or use what I call God's sweet spoons. God's spoons, these. Nature's forks, these guys are. That's what DeSantis says. In a minute, we're going to have a little look at how the media are fetishizing the identity of whistleblower buddy boy Texera instead of focusing on the content of his leak. And we'll be talking to Branko Marcetic about that in more detail. Why are the media always the willing, compliant attack dog of the state instead of its interrogator? Let me know in the chat and the comments if you think that the era of mainstream media is over, that, like Elon Musk, we should label them propaganda unit, state-funded, funded by Big Pharma, brought to you by Pfizer. I mean, they normally do that themselves, actually, to be honest, don't they, as part of one of the conditions that Pfizer imposes on them. Here's another story about a lad, Josiah Garcia. He works for the military, I was thinking the Air Guard or something like that, and what he did was he applied to get a job as a hitman on what turned out to be a spoof hitman site. Someone, for a laugh, I suppose, set up a spoof wanted hitman to carry out assassinations. This poor impoverished service person Went, oh God, I'll give it a go. I've got nothing to lose. And then the FBI always looking for someone to arrest, an easy arrest. Like this is, you know, the FBI, as you're aware, have a long history of setting up crimes, then solving that crime. I mean, it's a weird racket they're running over there with regard to
terrorist organisations that they contribute to and kind of form and then shop them to...
These are terrorists. How do you know? Well, we started it.
kind of
Gave them all the ideas, funded them, armed them, everything. They're terrorists. So hold on a minute, but what if you hadn't done all of that? Then they wouldn't have been terrorists. They'd been just carrying on with their jobs. I mean, this whole spoof parody hitman website game is something that needs a little bit of investigation, if you ask me as well.
Yeah. Also, I mean, like, if you're going to set that up, don't be surprised when someone does respond to it.
Don't spit your drip. How dare you, you murderer! I was just filling in a form that you put out there. Jesus.
21-year-old Tennessee Air National Guardsman is under arrest tonight, charged with applying to be a hitman. Officials say that he applied on a spoof site called rentahitman.com and was taken into custody after allegedly taking money from an undercover agent for a fictitious hit. Here's ABC's Mona Kosar-Abdi.
Tonight, a Tennessee Air National Guardsman is facing federal charges after allegedly using the website rentahitman.com to apply for a job as an assassin. But it turns out the website was just a parody, and now he's been arrested. According to the criminal complaint, Garcia explained that he was, quote,
Here's what the news does, unconsciously or otherwise, is present stories that are soluble and focused on the errors and malevolence, say, of an individual. What that does is it prevents us from realizing that what we're dealing with are institutional and systemic problems. What's more significant? Is it the actions of Jack Teixeira revealing on that chat room site that there was misleading information being propagated about the Ukraine-Russia conflict, or the fact that this type of information is widely disseminated, the propagandist information I mean, in order to support the military-industrial complex, a machine for profit that requires war? I'd like to see a story focused on that. You so seldom see the interests of the powerful attacked on mainstream media, so you have to ask yourself, who did the mainstream media work for? Let us know in the chat. Do you think that their primary function is to serve you, to give you information, to help you understand the nature of reality? Or do you think that it's actually the opposite of that, to distract you from reality, to prevent you with narratives that might be absorbing, compelling, vaguely comic, like the poor plight of this guardsman who's obviously not earning enough from his pay in the military, who's obviously to a degree desperate to fill in such a form, and whose actions, while I suppose, you know, they're ill-advised and unwise, are not nearly so significant as, for example, us being told that the war in Ukraine is going really, really well, when in fact hundreds of thousands of people are potentially needlessly dying, and no one's seeking a peaceful solution. That's just one alternative narrative to contemplate.
Looking for a job that pays well, related to my military experience, shooting and killing the marked target, so I can support my kids.
Right. Well, exactly that. So what? A guy who wants to earn more money because potentially he's on food stamps like 1 in 6 military personnel, wants to use the skill sets that he's acquired in the military, probably abroad, killing people that the government want him to kill, over in the United States, and suddenly everything changes at that point.
If you don't trust the government anymore, then why would you trust them to determine which people it's okay to kill? While he's over there killing those people, he's a hero. Then he comes over here and fills in a spoof form, he's a villain, and the media will present him as such. It's answering such a pipsqueak question when there's like an encyclopedia of inquiry that remains untouched.
On the way. Authorities say Garcia then sent in his resume, which listed his nickname as Reaper and a copy of his photo ID. Adding, quote, "What can I say? I enjoy doing what I do, so if I can find a job that's similar to it, put me in, coach."
I mean, actually, I feel a bit sorry for him because of the earnest way that he's trying to fill in this resume.
Like,
so really
they'll like
his
it if I
best.
say this coach thing.
Well, what am I supposed to say? I actually probably kill him at a price that's right. I'm willing to undercut my competitor assassins. It's clearly not the primary problem when you have military personnel willing to carry out online assassinations as a sort of side hustle. Because, like, if you're working for the military, you should be financially looked after. But the bleak truth is that many military personnel simply are not. 1 in 6 on food stamps, many insecure about shelter. This is not the kind of heroes welcome that the 19 song demanded. It's not the kind of celebration that American patriotism and pageantry continually suggests when it's at the recruitment end of finding military personnel suggests is available. They're, it seems, just fodder and objects of ridicule. And again, with the Buddy Boy Texera case, why are we not focusing on the content of the leaks? Why are we focusing instead on irrelevant details about the lad that made the leaks? That's something we'll be talking to Branko Marcetic about in more detail, as well as Ukrainian censorship and the inability to openly discuss the war in Ukraine.
Yeah, and obviously, like, if this goes any further, you can imagine the discussions. What a sad end to, like, the career of this military personnel. When, like, there's a sad end to a lot of people in the military in America. Almost 40,000 veterans are without shelter in the US on any given night. Veterans account for 11% of homeless adults in the US. So, you know, whether it's the way that this has gone or just the way that it goes standard for a lot of American veterans, it's not a great end.
We're not having an adult conversation about the problem, because if you want to have a real conversation about even this one story, you'd have to say, why is there so much desperation in in an individual that has a job? Does that track across the military more broadly? Yeah, it does, actually. It's just like endemic. They're endemically impoverished in the military, even though they've got jobs, are jobs where they're working for their country. It's extraordinary, and it's at odds with what we're broadly told.
Complaint details that an undercover agent began communicating with Garcia after the website's alarmed owner contacted the FBI. The two later meeting up in person, where documents say the agent asked if Garcia was comfortable with taking fingers or ears as trophies. Garcia allegedly responding, quote,
into that a bit, hasn't he? Like, with the saying that he was going to make himself an ear necklace.
Well, but also, if one of the questions to him is, are you willing to do this? He's not going to say no, is he? He'll say, well, actually, no, I refuse at that point.
He's not going to take the meatloaf defence. I'll do anything for this assassin's gig, but I won't do that. I will not make a necklace of my trinkets.
No.
Will you make yourself a Buffalo Bill-style skin suit out of your victims for sexual reasons? Put me in, coach. I'll do it. I'll make myself a sex bodice made out of my victim's skin. I'll make myself suspenders out of people's entrails if it gets me the job. When I see that lad standing there blithely staring into the mirror with his lovely brown eyes and an assortment of odd snacks oddly behind his head, I feel a little bit sorry for him. I think like it's a terrible indictment of the American military in general, and more broadly the way that it's funded, when you know that 50% of all military expenditure ends up going via the Pentagon, the unauditable Pentagon, into the hands of the military-industrial complex. Let's have a look at some of the profits being made by these organisations like Raytheon and Lockheed Martin and all of these guys. Look at that. That's just like BAE Systems, $17.5 billion. Just have a little glance at that, the amount of profit made by some of the military-industrial complex. Meanwhile, there's people willing to do spoof assassinations to turn a few quid. Now, the FBI, who were involved in that investigation, have a long history of setting up stings and then solving the problem. That doesn't seem to be what you'd want the FBI doing. Here's one of the more comic ones. In 2020, the FBI and Justice Department announced the arrest of 14 Michigan militia members who called themselves the Wolverine Watchmen. Already, that's a bit daft, isn't it? If you're naming yourself after Wolverine. Are they watching Wolverine, or are they watchmen that are like Wolverine themselves?
We'll never know.
We'll never know, because they're made up. They wouldn't have done it anyway if the FBI hadn't got them all worked up about something. The FBI claimed that federal agents had thwarted an elaborate plot hatched by the men to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. Questions of entrapment quickly emerged in the case. Yeah, it's entrapment of that poor lad, isn't it?
That's exactly what it is.
It's entrapment. He filled in a form. Would you kill someone? God, yeah, I suppose so. I mean, I'm killing people abroad anyway on behalf of the state. I'm desperate enough. enough. I've got a kid on the way. He's got a kid on the way, the lad. Oh, well, bloody hell, you're a murderer then. The FBI had used a dozen informants and several undercover agents to build the case. One of the group's key members, known as Big Dan, was an FBI informant. You can imagine these things getting to trial, and eventually every single person that's standing before the judge, well, are you FBI? Yeah, I'm FBI. You FBI? Is anyone here not FBI? No, we're all FBI. What about you, Judge? I'm FBI. The whole thing's it's like a school play. It's like a diorama. It's a complete confection.
It's to justify their own existence. Right.
They're justifying their own existence, because if the FBI doesn't do anything, then you don't need an FBI, and what you'll expose is that the infrastructure and architecture of the state primarily exists to subjugate the domestic population, distract and disempower them, rather than protect them. So you have to create bizarre cases like the Wolverine Watchmen, who sound made up and indeed are made up, to justify their own existence. You watch now, there's these robot dogs in New York City. They'll never revert to not having them, even though once before the people of New York demanded they be removed. They'll continue to justify them, won't they? They'll say, oh, look, these digi-dogs, they've been solving all sorts of cases.
Look
They're
at all the
helping.
crimes they've solved.
All these crimes, there was these Wolverine Watchmen.
Yeah.
They was about, the Wolverine Watchmen, they were going to kick people right up the ball bag.
There used to be a lot of homeless people in this area, and magically they've disappeared.
Presumably they've all gone and got jobs now as online spoof assassins doing pretend murders. Well, a ridiculous waste of everybody's time and money. Absurd. So there you go. Another 21-year-old kid working for the military with a daft nickname. What was the other one called? GoPro, OG.
The OG.
Let's see, look, there they are. There's Jack Texera, 21, Josh Garcia, silly childish nicknames because they're only kids really, working for the government, getting attacked personally by the media, same job, same basic sort of slave wages, poor sods. No wonder they're willing to boost their kudos on chat rooms and fill in spoof murder forms for a bit of attention. I would say what needs to be addressed is the way that the military is funded and run, and the relationship that the American military has with the people that they all signed up to protect and serve. Pay them properly. Take care of them. It's a disgrace that you can be a member of the military and personally poor. End the epidemic of poor soldiers right now. Let me know in the chat in the comments if you agree with that. Now, if you're watching this on YouTube, you won't be for much longer, because I'm going to be telling you just why I'm sniffing this sweet orange. I'm not a Ron DeSantis scoop it with a finger style perv. This is a magical new health kick according to the mainstream media, but we can't mention it on YouTube. It's just too controversial. Dare you sniff this sweet citrus? Give it a sniff, gal. It's a powerful...
I'm cured.
Of course you are. But what are you cured of? We'll tell you exclusively on Rumble. Click the link in the description right now.